That's a secret. We're not going to tell you about that one yet because it's under development. Hey everybody, CodePen Radio 421. Maybe I should say it really fast, like CodePen Radio, radio number 21, and then you're like, oh shoot, I left this one on like 2.2x or something. Are you a podcast guy, Steven? Or do you do any?
But I can't do it faster because I'm usually listening while I'm doing something else. So
I see.
I need at least normal human speed to comprehend it.
Mm-hmm. That's fair enough. I have some music ones I listen to. Oh, no, not at all. But I think my brain operates at 1.4x. I think like other people's thoughts register as 1x to my brain when they're 1.4x. It's okay. I just feel like even in real life, I feel like you should talk faster to me. Like I can handle it.
Noted. Bring that to me.
Yeah, speed it up. Speed it up a little bit. But the music ones, that's why in my one, I use Overcast. It has like a unique settings for this podcast, and you flip it on, and then that podcast can be 1x, whereas others aren't or whatever. I definitely know people that get in my car. Even Ruby, my 8-year-old daughter, is like, when I have ones on fast, she's like, too fast, Dad. I'm like, get on it. This is training. You want your brain to go faster. No, but people can be offended.
Podcaster? She like all the kid podcasts?
Totally, dude. The Circle Round is really good. That one is like fables, like the turtle in the hair. Oh, that one's like an Aesop fable, so that's obvious. But they're like more like retellings of old fables. It's really nice. And Story Pirates is big. That's a good one. Kids send in their own stories that are, their own kid version of Wild, just like what, and then the turtle exploded, and you're like, what? But they produce them up so like adults get their hands on these stories and make songs to them and stuff. That's a good one.
Like Drunk History with kids.
Yeah, well, yeah, kids are already a little drunk. Yeah, we went and saw it live too. That was cool. But it's, you got to watch it because it's its own little version of Screen Time. But it's like Screen Time light,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enough chit chat. Jeez, you're already sharing your screen. The idea of this CodePen Radio is that we're going to be talking about the view, what it looks like, all the stuff that you can control in the CodePen 2.0 editor. Because it's a lot different, but hopefully pretty familiar to the old editor.
It should feel similar. Like if you wear out an old pair of jeans and you get the same jeans. But they're just new, It's nice. It's like
there you go. Jeans. Yeah, it's not like you have to learn where the pockets are. They're still in the back. That's fine.
Right. We still have most of the stuff in the same place with the basic look that you're used to. There's just some necessary tweaks based on all the new functionality that we offer.
That's a better way to say it. I didn't mean to scare you saying it's so different. Oh my God. We were nervous. We even have a page in the docs that said, we originally named it Who Moved My Cheese? Because I think if you're of a certain generation, there was a famous book called that was all about like the theory of the book is people get pissed when you change anything. And you'll hear about it kind of thing. Like nobody likes any change. It happened to me today, Stephen. The music app for OS X now upgraded with the latest Tahoe and all the liquid glass and stuff. And they just took the top bar, which shows you like what song is playing and the little progress bar and all that. And they just put it on the bottom instead, and you're like, who moved my cheese? Why did you do that?
Yeah. Most of these UI changes are just so unnecessary. It's like they get some designer that's got some idea, and then they base the whole operating system ecosystem around it. And it's like, no.
I get why you'd move a control bar to the bottom on phone, because it's closer to your thumbs. Right. Got it. But this let's just do that on the desktop too. Yeah, they're different things. We used to know that. Okay, jeepers creepers. All right, so there's this new editor doesn't look a lot different, but it does look some different. And actually what you can do is, I don't know, it's got to be triple the amount of like cool stuff you can do in here.
At least. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just, to me it's very exciting. And we know we're in public beta as we're talking. We did private beta for a long time. We did alpha too. Like, I know that new people using this for the first time aren't terribly confused. We're not just learning that just right now. Like, that would be pretty silly if we're like, here you go, the whole world. We didn't test this, but we think you're going to love it. We tested the crap out of this.
Gosh, yeah, we've been using it ourselves for years now,
Right. And which almost makes us bad test subjects.
Right. But we've been refining things as we've found, like, this feels awkward, or this doesn't feel like the old editor. Like, there was a ton of work that we did
literal
to make
years,
things feel familiar.
as you're saying.
Yeah.
And these designs, credit, you are basically our lead designer at this point. I've done a lot of work. These designs were originally based by work from Claire, who's now at GitHub. She's been gone from CodePen for years, but some of her old Figma
her
work
fingerprints are still a part of over it.
Absolutely. Even some of these just outright her illustrations from some of the upsells and stuff like that. But obviously I'm involved too. I say what I like and don't like. That's my role.
You commit it and get it in there, and then I come back and
fix it,
tidy things up. Hey,
tidy it up. Let's be real. All right, so editors on the left. That's the one thing that you'll notice right away. Instead of the top, now. Which was the default. That's the default. I can't explain it to you. Sometimes things are a little vibesy. It feels like the most natural position for them in this new editor. I think it's because of panels. Panels are also along the left. There's like a skinny sidebar all the way along the left in the new editor that has a bunch of icons in it. You can have one of them open at a time or zero and just close them. The one that's open by default is files. And I think because the files is this like hugs the left panel, that it makes sense for the editors to like be attached to the open editors at a time. So I don't think we're about to change that, but if you CodePen, they used to be all along the top. You want to have them at the top, you can make them at the top. So let's explain that right away. You can open up this controls menu in the header, and there's just some options right there. You'll see left, top, and right. You just click top. That's kind of the same as the old editor was. You could put them along the left or right in the old editor too. These are all the same things you could do before. It just defaults to the left now because of that files panel. Also, not to jump ahead too far, but I want people to know this, and I think our UI does a pretty good job of teaching it because it has this big Command K at the top middle. But if you like them at the top and they're on the left, you could hit Command K or just click into it and just write the word top, T-O-P, and it'll be like place editors on the top. There'll be other options too, but it knows that that's probably the one that you want, and it'll switch there. I mentioned that we call it the Omnibar because a lot of apps have these days. I freaking love it. There's so many Omnibars in my life. It's almost like nested Omnibars. I'm in Mac OS, and I use Raycast, which is just Omnibar up your whole life. And then I'm in Arc, and Arc has an Omnibar too, which makes me, feels like every app should have it. I'm in DevTools. There's Omnibar down there. Now I'm in CodePen. Like anywhere I am, if I can hit, a lot of times on the web, it's Command K. And although I realize that it's different depending on context, like I think my Raycast is Command Space or something like that. But on the web, it's Command K commonly.
We bind them all with Omnibar in case you've got some muscle memory for like Command P is also a common one. And so we've got that. And then we also bind
that's
Command
the VS Code one, right?
For that because of Omnibar, of course. But it's also the command for like opening stuff. So if you search for a file, like your index.html, you can find it that way real quick.
Yeah. A lot to say about the Omnibar. Maybe we could do a whole show on that at some point because it was quite an architectural feat, really.
Yeah.
It's like when you go down that road, you really need to kind of do things the right way. But okay, so files along the left. Now here's one that I think that could escape easily a beta user or anybody on CodePen for a long time, because I definitely know that people think of CodePen. In fact, I was just on the Free Code Camp podcast the other day. I don't even know if when it goes out will coincide with this, but the way Quincy described it was like, yeah, CodePen, it's the thing where there's an HTML box, a CSS box, and a JavaScript box, and there you go. I don't think he's like New Jerseyan, but so I made him that way. That is true. People think of CodePen of like that, and I think that's okay. The new editor is too. The default pen is an index.html file, a style.css file, and a script.js file. It will work like that. You can close that files panel and never even think about it, and the dang thing behaves just like the old CodePen ever did. But my point here is that in the old editor, you could minimize an editor by like dragging it around. Maybe we had like double clicks. I don't even know if we had key commands. Everything in the old editor feels so archaic and bad to me now. But anyway,
double click for sure. Yeah.
Double click worked to minimize, but you couldn't close it. No. And now go ahead and close it. Just click that X button. Those editors can just straight up go away if you want. So you get but it's not just closing, it's dragging as well. So if you have the files panel open, you can grab those files and drag them. You can click them to open, but you can also drag them where you want them. You can drag them down into a new area and it will open up a new set of tabs. Do we have a good word for that? I think we internally call a group of tabs an editor for some reason.
Right. So each of these little areas is an editor. And then the editor has tabs and then like some specific content for that tab, because there's different types of tabs now.
Right.
You don't just use this area just for code anymore. We'll show a little bit more
and
of that
this is
later.
to support just the different way people's work. So if you drag them all up to the top, and you don't have to drag them just from files. The tabs themselves are combine, move all tabs to one editor. Steven's just showing off now. There's a command to group them. This is probably a little bit closer to like a VS Code like experience. Usually you're looking at one file at a time and you have a bunch of tabs across the top and you pick them. I know VS Code is very flexible, and I'm sure lots of people do split screens or they're looking at 4 files at once. I know Alex on our team's always got a zillion files open in different places because he likes a lot of context. His brain must like that. He probably listens to podcasts at like 1.7x or something.
At least.
But I think some people will like I don't know, I just want the tabs across the top because I'm just a one file at a time type. I admit that I'm 80% one file at a time kind of guy, and I like that it supports that. So that's just new, knowing that like you have more control over the view of which editors are open and all that, and it doesn't matter if they're open or not. You can they save the same and they're part of the build process all the same. Just a lot more control there, and it feels good. I mean, I remember sweating the details on like dragging a tab around, and I was like obsessed that there needs to be a little white line where the tab's gonna go when you drop it, and it was like harder than it seemed like it needed to be, but I'm like, I don't care, this takes a week, we're gonna do it, and now that it's there, I'm like, I would have taken 2 weeks. Like that needs to be that way. And then when they change, they like animate between which one's going where. That makes you understand what's happening. I think it's darn nice. It's not VS Code in the browser. We coded this. This is 100% just handcrafted code. We didn't even use AI because it was long enough ago that it wasn't available.
Nope. Human coded.
Human coded, darn it. Yeah, and it's beautiful, I think. And it's also very small. I did note just the other day, we have some work to do on this, but I think the performance of this new editor, for one thing, is 2 megabytes less than the old editor was. So I think as far as like complete payload is concerned, it's cool. This whole thing is in React. That's new. The old editor was so old school that it was just kind of vanilla JavaScript, maybe a little jQuery in there. I don't know, but
eventually it kind of Frankensteined in some React in there.
It did, like the header and the footer were for some reason and whatever. But yeah, this is a much more complete experience that way. And we have some things to learn about deferred loading and suspense and whatnot to get it behaving just how we like to. But I'm pretty pleased with it feels relatively snappy to me. Although, of course, we all have expensive MacBooks and whatnot. We're like subject to the same crap everybody, a lot of developers are. We're like, I got fiber, baby. I don't know if there's fiber in Houston.
Yeah, we gotta throttle things. We do test some throttled stuff, but
we do. So that's positioning. You can move stuff around a lot. Pretty satisfying. And then we talked about the tabs, but this panels thing is a big deal because panels, almost all the panels represent things that you just couldn't do in the old editor. Pretty much every panel. The next panel down from files is called blocks. We've talked about blocks just last week on this show, what blocks are. This is the part that shows you what's going on. We want to be very transparent about the CodePen compiler and what happens when we're producing that preview for you, when we're looking at your code. What are we running to make that all happen? It just straight up shows you in that panel, and it gives you some control there over what's kind of happening. If you needed to disable a block, that's where you would do it. If there's a problem with your build process, you can see what problems happened in this. It's probably my favorite panel. Like, I think I have this one open the most because I just like seeing it go and whatnot. For the YouTube people, you're seeing Stephen play with this a little bit. For our audio people, Stephen renamed a file index.pen.html, which is a way to trigger a certain block. It's called the classic block on CodePen. Just so you can see now that classic block is processing. It has found one file that it needs to deal with, which is index.pen.html, and it's telling you, I've processed that one file. Stephen renamed a CSS file into SCSS, and now it's saying, oh, I processed that file for you. Here you go. If there was a problem, you could see diagnostics and all that type of thing. So anyway, the build panels is really nice. You're not controlling the order of this build process. That's a feature. Anyway, yeah, that's a diagnostic. You see the red there and the failure and all this. Okay, that is the blocks panel. We'll talk much more about that going forward because the compiler is such a beautiful piece of technology that we use. The next one down, I believe everyone has access to this in the public beta now, is the deployment panel. Another one that I'm particularly proud of. Oh, there's one of Claire's illustrations that probably has lasted since she made it. One click, boop, now it's deployed. And we are going to give you a subdomain of codepen.app. And in this case, Stephen got Mutual Bush and the word Arendelle. Do we use the frozen package? I don't know what that is. Airedale. Anyway, so now this pen exists at that URL, and it is kind of locked in time. Not in time. Maybe Frozen Brain is hitting me. It's Atta Holland is frozen. Ooh. Anyway, that will not be changed unless it's redeployed. So you can sit here and work and change stuff and save your pen and whatever. And it's the old website is just going to stay the way it was, almost like a staging deploy or something like that, until you redeploy it, and then it'll get the latest changes. Or you can click to have it deploy on save, which is a nice little feature as well. But that's just deployment. This is where you'll add custom domains if you want to deal with that, because you've bought your own domain and you want to map it to that. A particularly awesome and powerful feature of CodePen that we'll talk more about later. That's the deployment panel. Totally didn't exist on old pens. You could deploy projects, but, again, a topic for another day. The next one down is versions, but that's a secret. We're not going to tell you about that one yet because it's under development. Although it's, whatever. It's just not live for private beta, but it's pretty cool. The next one down is the privacy one. So public and private, which you can change in all sorts of places, I would say, in the view of this. You can come in here, which I think is a nice way to do it because it's very clear and explains to you everything. But see that little lock up there? Stephen made this one locked. You can change it from there, and you can change it from the footer. And this is probably me complaining that there wasn't enough places to change the privacy. And I said, there needs to be 3 places or more.
It's more about linking the different areas of the UI. So when you land on a pin, like you want to know if you've made it private or if what you're changing is going to be seen by other people. So having that logo right up there in the title, it's always visible. You're always going to be able to see that. And then if you want to change it, you just click and you'll get right to it.
It probably should have been there forever, but we're just fixing all of our old sins by putting it there now.
And this panel also contains collaboration. So one of the new features with the editor is you can invite other users to collaborate with you, and they can do that in real time. They can join and write with you. And we show that in the footer as well. So if you actually have somebody online with you, it'll show their little face down there, and that's linked to the privacy settings as well. So we've got that all grouped together.
Yeah, I just noticed something. Well, we are gonna have to have a meeting after this anyway. And then the next one down is a panel that we did have before. It just wasn't in panel format. So of course you can give a pen a description, tags, you can look at all this metadata and comments and stuff associated with it. Mostly this is basically details view. This is an important concept to understand about this new editor. There's no more views anymore. There used to be this thing that was like professor view, collab view, live view, debug view, blah, 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 blah. There's a million views. Now there's one. It's this. Look at it. You want it to look like details view? Then share this. I mean, we'll get to this in a second, but you can share this with this panel open and it'll look like debug view, essentially. You can close all the editors and share it with just the preview open. You can do all these things. That's basically what details view was. That's basically what full page view was, is just show me the preview with as little other UI as I can. All these things are accomplished without ever leaving this one URL. It's just a lot nicer. Be like teaching people all these different URLs that we had, just kind of silly. So yeah, you can turn off all the editors with one click. You can maximize the preview. You can close the panels, show one particular panel, all this kind of stuff. And crucially, when you get it looking just how you want it to look, or you want somebody else to see it, you can go into the sharing menu and click, what does it say? Copy link with layout. That means that okay, I want it to look like full page view. So I'm going to close all the editors, close all the files and all this stuff. Then in the URL, there's going to be a query parameter. It's going to have the stuff in that URL so that when somebody else opens it, it's going to look like what it looks like to you right now, which is kind of nice. So there is no full page view. You just get it looking like full page view and then share, copy link with layout and send it that way. Just a lot. It's just nice for us. All those URLs was just weird technical debt that we really didn't need,
Yeah.
Those will in the future, those will all redirect correctly. If you have some link out in the wild to full page view, and this is, many, many months in the future where it's become a 2.0 pen, believe me, it'll behave just like full page view did then. We've been very nicely backwards compatible. I think anything the old pen editor can do, this one can do too. That goes for projects as well, and more, with tiny, tiny little exceptions that aren't even hardly worth noting. All right, so that's all the panels, mostly. There's a couple of dialogues as well, pen settings and assets and stuff. Those things just open up a modal where you change stuff. I mean, there's absolutely stuff to talk about in here, but most of it is pretty self-explanatory. Like, oh, I want to change my theme to a different looking dark theme. Can you do that? Heck yeah, you can. And there's way more themes available than there ever was. So, click around. It looks like there's about 12 lights and darks. So pick the one you want. There's some crazy ones in there. Then I'm pretty partial to the crazy ones myself. There's more fonts than there ever were. There's all kinds of view controls that way. And this is so silly to even say. You couldn't do it from the editor before. You just had to know that there's some global settings screen elsewhere in our little Rails app that you could change those things on. And then when you went back to the editor, then you could change it. So it's just nice to know. You just change it from right in here. Isn't that silly? It just seems cool. Although this was, I'll tell you what, a complex thing from a coding and everything opinions perspective, because when you change, look at this. This is going to blow some YouTube minds out there. We have a full-blown light mode, not just for the whole dang screen goes light mode if you wanted to, and it's independently controlled from the themes. But there are settings that are global. If you change those themes, that's only a global setting. All of your pens are going to have that theme. You can't set one pen to be high contrast dark and one other pen to be high contrast light. It just doesn't make sense. These are global settings, and there's a lot of global settings. Most of these settings are global. Do you want to see line numbers or turn off line wrapping, or which key bindings do you want to use? When you change those, it just changes all of CodePen for you. I think that's probably what you want. There's even this thing, which we can pivot to talking about a little bit, called minimal UI, where you turn it on and it hides a lot of the interface. It makes a lot of things smaller. It really just trims everything back. And so especially if you're used to the more simplistic view of the old editor, it gets a little closer to that. But that wasn't really the main theme. The main idea was like, that's presentation view. Remember, we used to have presentation mode. Now you just flip it on with a switch. So it might be nice for streaming or really small screens or whatever else. So minimal UI is really nice. That can be a global setting as well. It doesn't, in that case, you can flip it on and off at the pen level, but if you go change it in settings, it's a global change.
Oh,
right?
No, it's a global setting entirely now. We did have it where it was just per pin, and it was kind of saved in local storage. But enough people were asking about it.
Yeah, people love it. The people, they love minimal UI, so you can have it. Yeah, you turn on minimal UI, then it just stays on. Okay, fair enough. So that's a big thing too. You might love it too. Try it, flip it on, see if you like it or whatever. You might. There's nothing you can't do in minimal UI mode. It's just a lot more of like you have to hover over the left to open up the panels and things like that. You even have to hover over the footer and stuff. It's trying to get rid of as much as it possibly can for you in minimal UI view. So there's a little bit more UI in the preview as well. It's not just a white box anymore by default. There's a little bar across the top of it, and that's because you have a file system in the 2.0 editor. You could have multiple HTML files or a client-side router or whatever. You can have multiple URLs. It's going to be a lot more common. So the idea is that you kind of need to know what URL you're at. And so that bar across the top is like a browser. A browser shows you the URL that you're at across the top generally. So now we're showing you what URL you're previewing at that time. And then because we have that, we have a refresh button. Honestly, the refresh button is glorious. There used to be this Command Shift 7 that you just have to secretly know to refresh the preview. Now there's a button.
And we used to have this whole, run button, like kind of hidden setting that disabled the auto updating preview. And we still have that. But now it's just integrated with the refresh button. So if I turn off auto updating preview and make some changes, it won't appear in the preview until I refresh, and then everything will show up.
So I think there's some animation people that really like that because it's like it gets too, I don't know, messes with your brain when the animation is starting over and over and over and over and over and over. You're like, just wait until I'm done, and then I'll click the button. Thank you very much. So that's just a new area, is that whole preview bar thing, we call it. And that's where the console is attached to the preview, which is necessary. The console talks to the preview. So that conceptually those are combined and that kind of thing. But the console's still there, just more powerful than ever. And all that kind of thing. Okay, so we're rounding out this, though, but we've talked about the panels, we talked about the header, the editors, the preview. There's a footer as well, and the footer has some stuff tucked away in it. I think that this is decently, like, weirdly enough, this is a thing that there's going to be a lot of cheese moving on, because there was some quick access buttons down there. Like the console had a button down there. I prefer the new location of the console button, but it's not there in the footer anymore. Another one is embedding the pen. There used to be a button down there to do it. Now those are tucked up into the sharing area of the header. It's a lot more logical, but I get it. It's like it's in a new position for it. That was, to us, it felt like kind of a junk drawer down there in the footer, just a bunch of random buttons that did random things. And you're like, this needs a little.
There was no logic to what was down there. It was just, we need a place for it and we don't have anywhere else for it to go, so it's getting tossed in the junk drawer.
So now this footer is a little bit more in line with something like a VS Code would do it. That's a little bit more of a status of what's going on. Do you have unsaved files? Do you have changes that need to be deployed? How'd that last build go? That kind of thing is down there. Some good stuff. I think a very important one to know is build output. It's not a secret what's being previewed in that preview panel after you run a build. We will show you all the files that are making that preview, and that's pretty cool. Those can be dragged out into editors as well. This is something that the old editor couldn't do. Nice little trick is that you can update. Yeah, you can update some HTML and see what the complete build of that HTML is. I think it's probably even more common to see I want to know what my Sass loop is doing. So you can open up the SCSS and the compiled style.css and kind of see them side by side. You don't have to, in the old editor, you could see the output, but you had to toggle between them in the same editor. So anyway, that's the idea. That build output there is down in the footer, because we're talking about the footer right now, and is pretty useful. It also tells you, it just has a green check mark being like, hey, you're all good. There's nothing wrong with your pen. The build has succeeded. There's a little Easter egg with this that you might want to know about. You can grab that build success thing down there and drag it out, and that will become a tab as well. So that, how I was saying that the build panel is my favorite panel. You can open the build panel with another panel at the same time, because this build status can become a tab. So if you want to be constantly watching how your build is going as you're working, you can open it as a tab. It's just kind of fun. And it hints to a future where I'm God, I almost what if everything was a tab, Of course, we've thought about this and stuff, and we're pretty happy with where it's at right now, but I can't imagine a future in which that more stuff is able to be tabs. Stephen is showing off right now that individual blocks can be tabs, because there's a bunch of information tucked into that tab about how to use it and what's inside of it. For example, you're yeah, Sass block, what version of Sass is it? Well, you can just come look in here. We try to make it clear, but we'll show you what's in the package.json of that block. So if it's a block that isn't just one package but depends on a bunch of other packages, we'll just show you. So nothing is kind of hidden away, which is kind of nice. All right. A few things, and then we'll finish it up. This went a little bit long. Each one of those editor tabs is kind of nice in that there's a right-click menu on it, or a tiny, tiny little arrow that you can click and open it. If you forget how to right-click, call a context menu usually, and it has a bunch of secret little abilities in it where you can open and close and rename and all these type of things. One that I really like is format this file. It means you don't even have to add a block to format it. It'll just do it real quick behind the scenes. A little bit of magic that is a little funny. We try to be magic free, because you're well, what's formatting that file? I'll just tell you, it's prettier. But yeah, you don't, it's fine. Don't even worry about it. And a couple of things, if you make a pen a template and then you're viewing that pen, there's a little special thing in the header that indicates that and allows you to one-click use that template. Just a nice little feature, I think. And there's just context menus everywhere. We're just trying to be as just darn helpful as possible, So I think that about covers it. There's probably more things that we didn't even get to. I think it's worth just exploring and getting a feel for this stuff. There's probably more to see and explore than you would think at first glance of this new editor. And like I said, it's all handcrafted by us. So it's something that I'm proud of our team for creating, because it's just really polished, I think.
And it should be an easy transition for you coming from the classic editor into this. We hope it feels like home. And if you're ever confused about where something is, the Omnibar is really going to be the key to that. We've set up tags and stuff for everything in the Omnibar, so that if you're not really sure what something is called, you can search for it and find it there. If you didn't know about the details and comments area, you could be searching for description, and you can find all the places that you see that. That's super helpful.
That Omnibar is going to help you jump to just about anything. I think not just about anything. I think absolutely anything the CodePen can do is in there.
Yeah.
All right. If you have any questions or feedback on it, of course, we'd love to hear you. If you listen to this via audio, hopefully that wasn't too annoying, that you got a feel for what some of this stuff was like, even with audio. But if it was annoying, feel free to join us over on YouTube, where you're able to see some of this stuff as well. Or even better, just type in pen.new/2. Jump over to the new editor and give it a shot for yourself. All right. See you later.